Welcome back to Double Take, an NFL podcast. This is episode 41, season 3, episode 5. We have the
Oh,
whole
wow.
crew here, Savage, Daniel, and I'm your host, David. It's been a while since we've been together, but how have you guys been?
Been good, man. Just recovering from a tough loss last night. Mavs will figure it out moving forward, I believe. But man, excited to talk about this amazing Cowboys draft.
Yes, honestly, it's been too long, fellas. I'm with Savage. Cowboys had a great draft, did they not? I think we got everything that we wanted. Savage, I think we're at a point where no excuses for Dak, right? No
And
excuses for Dak this year?
not only no excuses, but I'm not trying to be over exaggeratory right now.
Uh-huh.
But guys, I think this is our year.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
You feel it too.
I feel it
Oh
deep in my
my
soul.
gosh.
Yes.
See, I
Yes.
almost thought about saying, you know what? I'm not going to record until August because I already know what was. It was a good draft. I thought that the Cowboys did have a good draft for the 2025 season for sure. I think they did some good moves, had some good pieces that they've added along. But you know, we'll talk about it here in a second. Daniel he told us, so we're gonna indulge him for about 2-3 minutes. He was told that there were some people who wanted us to give our thoughts on the NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
We're not. Savage said this, I think, very wisely. This is not a sports podcast yet. I think we can work our way towards that, but this is still Double Take an NFL podcast. So we're not going to do necessarily a segment, but we are going to give our brief thoughts about how we've been enjoying the NBA playoffs and even offer some stuff about our Mavs. But Daniel, since you brought this up, why don't you start with us? How have you enjoyed the NBA playoffs?
You know, man, like I've really enjoyed it. I think we're seeing some things that, the emergence of Jalen in New York, looking at the Knicks and seeing what they're doing, looking at Boston, seeing what they're doing. But even more importantly, what our Mavs are doing. Again, yesterday notwithstanding, it's been one heck of a ride for the Dallas Mavericks. And, it's one game, season's not over. I texted y'all yesterday saying Thunder's in 4 because I did that for the Clippers, and then the Mavs turned it around from then on. So I'm hoping that, caused a little something as well. But, Luka, not really healthy right now. Don't really foresee him having more stinkers like that unless his health just completely deteriorates. Savage said earlier, don't expect the Thunder to hit as many threes because it seemed like yesterday. Well, two things. One, they were getting every call all night. And then two, they just could not miss. It was funny. I was watching the game with a couple of friends, and one of my friends, she said, man, even when they get fouled and they just throw up the shot, they even make those. So it was one of those games. So for me, I'm excited to see what the Knicks continue to do. Also, really keeping my eye on the Nuggets situation and what Minnesota is doing with them because that's been an incredible surprise so far. And I think Savage even called, earlier on in the week saying, "Hey, I'm picking Minnesota in that series." I thought that was a bold take. Might not be so bold right now, based on what they're doing. Exactly. And so seeing what the outcome of that's going to happen, like I'm a really rise postseason so far.
Yeah, man, it's been fun. I've enjoyed it. I wouldn't say the Mavericks have gone on a wild ride yet, or a big run yet. I mean, we beat a team. We were favored to beat the Clippers. So from my perspective, we took care of business. If we advance past OKC, that's when it's like, okay, we've made some serious noise this postseason. But when you have a guy like Luka and a guy like Kyrie, winning a first round series is like, okay, this is the bare minimum expectation. If you don't do this, we have a problem. Things that have stuck out to me though, man, like the defense of the Timberwolves is awesome. I mean, they're playing lockdown defense, even without or without Gobert. That was interesting to see. Yeah, Thunder Mavs game 1 wasn't that great for a Mavs fan perspective, but can't get too high with the first game of the series. We haven't won a first game in a series with Jason Kidd since he's been our coach, and we are 4-1 in playoff series with Kidd. So it's too soon for the world to be falling, but it's been all right. It's been fun. Brunson's on a burner right now. He's doing great. And yeah, it's weird. Like I'm watching the Eastern Conference playoffs right now, and it feels like it's hard for me to root for any team in the East because it's like, okay, the Knicks have Jalen Brunson, and he was a former Mav, and then the Pacers are coached by Rick Carlisle, who was our old coach, and then the Celtics have Porzingis. So I'm like, I don't really know if I want to cheer for y'all either. And then the Cavs are the Cavs. I mean, I don't really know what to say about them. They're not that much special of anything. So, but it's been a fun ride. I think the champion's coming out of the West, and it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think the East for me is like one of those things. Like, oh, I'm going to keep an eye on it just so that way I can know, who's doing what. And I have the Knicks and Boston going to the Western Conference Finals, and I feel after game ones, I feel still pretty confident. The Pacers, though, that's a team that I've been impressed by. I mean, they're a young team who I think before the All-Star break, I think it was during the time of the play-in tournament, like people were saying, yeah, this is a high explosive team, and they're like maybe a year away from really making some noise in the playoffs. Like they were not really a team that we were looking at, but Hallaberry is he's just playing extremely well in the regular season. I think in the postseason he's not played at that same standard, but I think that team overall has just been a nice surprise to make it into the second round. We knew that Milwaukee was not without Giannis, and just because of their whole coaching situation and how they messed that up. It was really hard for you to, like, especially the way that they were ending the season, hard for you to expect that they would beat Indiana. But the Knicks are a team I think I am rooting for them because I liked Jalen Brunson when he was here with the Mavs. I mean, Luka, if people remember, Luka was hurt in that playoff run and had to sit a couple of games, and Jalen Brunson did an amazing job carrying this team. We couldn't re-sign him to the money that he wanted, but he's doing his thing in New York, so that's fantastic. When it comes to the Mavs and the Thunder, like these are two teams that I watch a lot. Obviously, being here in Oklahoma, gone to a couple Thunder games. Actually went to the game where they played the Mavs. Man, this is a team that they get hot like this. Like this, to me, when they were making all these shots and making all these threes, I've seen this before. I've seen, like, of the 3 or 4 games that I've been to this year, they did this. Like, they are just insane. They have a bunch of playmakers. And even Charles Barkley said, like, hey, like, for the Mavs to win, Luka and Kyrie have to play amazing. For the Thunder, Shea doesn't have to play lights out for the Thunder to win because their role players are fantastic and are really good. So we just need to just match that intensity. Gafford, I think, played extremely well, but he also missed a lot of bunnies in the game. We got into some foul trouble. But I'm not worried about it. We just need to steal one game, just one game in OKC. So Thursday is going to be an important game for us. But I'm enjoying the playoffs. This is actually the first time I've sat down and watched the playoffs, like every single game, and I'm enjoying it. I'm learning a lot, and I'm having a lot of fun. But yeah, watch out for the T-Wolves because they're legit. They are legit. I think everyone was saying that they were probably like a year away, maybe, but like no, they're here now. Ant-Man is man, he's insane. But yeah, those are just our thoughts on the NBA playoffs. But let's talk football because that's what we're here to do. The Cowboys, as well as the rest of the league, had the NFL draft just a couple of weeks ago, and now we're here to talk about it. I'm going to go through some of the picks that they made, In the first round, we got Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma, an offensive tackle. In the second round, we got Marshawn Nealon, who was an edge rusher from Western Michigan. Then we got Cooper Beebe in the third round from Kansas State as a guard. That's what he's listed at. And then we got Martise LaFou, the linebacker from Notre Dame, in the third round again, which was a pickup from a trade that we had made with, I think, who was it? Detroit? I don't know. But we got some really, really good key guys. We addressed. I think we addressed the linebackers. We addressed our offensive line. We got a defensive tackle in the 7th round. But Savage, what are your thoughts on this draft and how the Cowboys did?
I think I need to go get a cup of coffee really quick because you reading through those selections almost put me to sleep. So you mean to tell me that Graham Barton fell to us and we traded out to get a prospect that had to get benched against the University of Texas because he wasn't able to block the University of Texas, and he's going to come in and start day one for us? Okay. And then, so we got Connor Beebe, and I'm not too impressed by him. And you said we got this linebacker, LaFou. I'm more like LaHoo. Who is this guy? I don't know, man. I know we have historically drafted well, but this just feels like a stinker of a draft. Like in past years, I've been excited about some draft picks. This year, I'm just like, I feel like we got a bunch of mid. I'm not excited with the Cowboys draft. If you couldn't tell earlier in the show, that was sarcasm.
I didn't catch that at all. I thought you guys were being legit.
No.
I thought you guys were being legit.
I was absolutely sarcastic. This draft was a bunch of mid. Jerry Jones tried to make the show about himself by trading out of the back, and it's like, ooh, and I found this Tyler Guyton guy, which if he hits, he can be great. I get it. But man, Barton is expected to be a perennial Pro Bowler in the interior of our line when Tyler Smith could still be playing tackle. It's way easier to find a guard than it is a tackle. And we have a tackle already. Tyler Smith has proven he can play the position. And so basically what it is that we're betting that Beebe is going to be better than Barton, or we're saying that Hoffman is going to be a dog this year. And I get there was the story that came out that he's been in the weight room every single day this offseason. He's been putting in the work. I just don't buy it, man. This draft really, I'm not at the full point of total nihilism yet, but I don't think that we're going to win the East anymore. I mean, I'm comfortable saying that.
Wow.
I'm comfortable saying that. I think
the guy who was saying relax.
We're fine.
To us a couple of weeks ago. We're fine.
Because this draft was terrible. We were saying we were going all in on the draft. And the first thing you do is move back. So, no, I didn't like the draft. I don't like our picks. I don't think they're going to amount to much, man. This is –
wow.
I'm sorry. But I'm not going to sit up here and act like everything's okay when I almost know for a fact they aren't. But go ahead and tell me how I'm wrong. Please talk me out of this. Talk me out of it.
Amazing. No, for me, Savage, I'm 100% with you. Like I'm gonna already disqualify myself. I don't know much about college football in the first place, but based on what I've heard about all the players that we drafted, I'm gonna focus in on our first round pick, Guyton. And just my feeling about how a first round pick should go. You a home run, not what a first round draft pick is supposed to be, not a project. And from everything that I've heard, this guy's a project.
The biggest of them all.
And And this is the second time, unless I'm misremembering, that we could have had a perennial Pro Bowl talent and either we traded that pick away. This is the second time. First time was the Ravens center, Lindbaum, who fell in our lap and we passed on him. We already made this mistake once. And I'm with you. Tyler Smith has proven that he can play the left tackle position. He's proved it. I rather us take a chance on our guard, whoever was going to be our left guard, move Tyler to the left tackle, and draft a perennial Pro Bowl center. That's what I rather would have had. And I understand you got an extra pick out of it, but even with that pick, was it even what was that the guard pick, Dave? The used on that guard on BB. Now BB, I've heard that it's gonna be okay, solid. But I don't. This draft moved the needle at all. And I already had the feeling that Philly was going to win the East based on how their offseason went versus how ours is doing. And so, I don't know, David, I feel like you're probably heading to a place of like, well, what's that going to do? Look at the team that he has. I feel like we're heading in that direction, and Jerry didn't really help the situation at all. With this draft, honestly. And I 100% agree with one of your first points, Savage. It felt like a look at me type draft. That's what it felt.
I mean, I told y'all what was going to happen. I told y'all how the season was going to go out, and y'all didn't believe me, which is typical, but here I am, right, once again. I think that, like, I've watched a lot of these guys. I mean, obviously I didn't watch the guy at Western Michigan, but I saw Cooper Beebe play at Kansas State. Obviously, I was first hands with Tyler Gotton. I've even seen LeFou play at Notre Dame a couple of games, and I'm really excited. I am truly excited about what he's going to do. I just don't think it's going to be this year. I think we got a lot of picks that I think over time will be good picks. I just don't necessarily think that they're going to pan out this year. It seems like this draft was a building, like a building for the future. Like, we're going to address these guys, but a lot of these guys are projects or guys that need some time to develop. So they're not going to necessarily be good right now, but they will in about a year or two. And so in terms of if we're looking at the draft from that perspective, I thought that Jerry did an okay job, I guess, in building for the future. My question is that, like, I would have, as a Cowboys fan, what I would have, if this was the draft that you were going to have, why not trade Dak Prescott and give a couple more picks for this year and also next year and really give yourself a good, solid future to build into the next 2-3 years? If that seems to be what Jerry's plan is. It doesn't seem to be all in right now. It means all in on the future of moving on. At least that's what I get from these decisions that Jerry Jones has been making this offseason. I mean, I agree with both of you. I don't think that we're winning the East. Not necessarily just because we haven't had a repeating champion in over 20 years, but like Daniel, like you said, Philly had a really, really good offseason and they had a really good draft. They addressed all of their needs. They moved up and made decisions to get the guy that they wanted, and they're set up in a really, really great position to succeed heading into next season. So I don't disagree with anything that you two say at all.
I think for me, the difference between a lot of teams versus the Cowboys draft is there was a lot of times where the Cowboys were about to pick and they wanted a certain guy. Other teams traded up in front of the Cowboys multiple times in this draft. I needed to know. And Yeah, I mean, other teams they were aggressive with the player that immediately. And yeah, I mean, the feeling I got was this is a, hey, let's draft a bunch of projects. Let's see how they do.
Here's what I said this to y'all in the group chat, but our audience hasn't got to hear this take. But I am no stranger of the friendly family poker game. You know, you all come over, you have dinner together. Someone pulls out the tokens and they have the cards, and you're sitting down. Everybody puts in $5, and whoever wins, they get $30. You know, like it's just not that big a deal. We're hanging out, we're having a good time. And when you play poker, there's this thing you do called you go all in, and you push all your chips into the middle of the table. And if you win, you get to stay. But if you lose, you leave. So my like, I know this isn't going to happen, but like what I'm hoping this could potentially mean, if I'm reading the tea leaves, is that if Jerry doesn't win a Super Bowl this year, he's going to leave the Cowboys, and then maybe we can finally have some hope moving forward. You know, he's going to retire. You know, he doesn't want to sit in that box every day until the day he dies. That can't be what he wants to do. I'm sure there's a part of him that would love to just, you know, go on an Alaskan cruise, you know, and get to see the Aurora Borealis. Or maybe he might want to go to Branson, Missouri. I don't know. But just to have a good time, to live out the remainder of his life separate from the Cowboys. And so I'm hoping that when he says all in, what he means is if we don't win the Super Bowl this year, he is going to relinquish power of the Dallas Cowboys to Will McClay, and you know, and then he will be gone. Who says no?
I see. Here's the thing about Savage. I love you like a brother, but I can no longer tell if you're being sarcastic or not. I don't know if you were being for real or not when you say that.
Yeah, haven't figured that one.
A man can
Like,
hope.
I mean,
I am serious
sure,
in the sense that I want that to happen. I am
Did
not.
you have a
serious-
prophetic
Okay,
dream?
okay.
Is that
I
what
am
this
not
is?
serious in that I think it'll happen.
He is.
But I'm serious
You know
that I
how
want it to happen.
you know how he like was when he was on me about reading from the Book of Lamentations, and that was like my Bible say. That's where Savage is currently right now. And I was there a couple weeks. I already knew that. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we would all love it. Cowboys Nation would love it if Jerry Jones left the Cowboys next season. But
Mhm.
it's not gonna happen.
But that's
It's not
what
gonna
all
happen.
in means. That is
But
literally
again,
all it means.
here was my take from a couple weeks ago. I don't think he meant anything by it. I don't think he meant a dang
I don't
thing
even know
when
if he knew what he was saying.
all in, because when he first said it, everyone assumed that it was, we're going to go all out in free agency. We're going to sign. We're going to stop.
His internet connection's all in. I can't even hear you, David.
Oh, that's because I was muted. Hey, you might want to rewind that because your internet's kind of going in and out. It's been kind of going in and out.
Mine?
Yeah.
Let me see.
Yeah.
Like leave and come back. Oh, I see it. Okay, it's back.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know why
Sounds
it's
good.
doing it. All right, do I go again?
Yeah, just start from the top.
Okay. So what we had previously thought that all in was, when Jerry first said it, was we're going to go all in free agency. We're going to get this player. We're going to get that player. We're going to stack the deck against all the teams in the NFL. Now it was all in, going in, re-sign, extending Dak, CD, and Micah. And when that didn't happen, all in meant he's going to go and draft every single whoever we needed to make this team complete. Now, what does all in mean? Nobody knows.
No, I do know.
So for me, that means he didn't mean anything by it. He had a senile old man moment that we just ran with when he, in interview after that, he was asked a question where he said, "Hey, we're picking 24th because we were the 24th best team in the NFL." Like that should have been just the culmination of everything, that this guy has clearly lost his mind. He is not in the right mental state and he needs to just go. So for me, all in meant nothing. It really, it's been proven that it really meant nothing.
You know what? And I think for most of the time I'd agree with you, but I think I actually disagree with you. Here's why. We went all in. We brought back the single best running back we've had in the last 2 years. Not number 21, though. This time,
No.
new look, same old taste. Number 15, Ezekiel Elliott, fullback number 1, baby. Let's go. No more Hunter Lepke fumbles at the goal line.
You know what? I can't disagree with you on that. You know what? You got me. You know?
He went all in. You know what's funny is that, we owe Zeke $5 million still, and he can earn up to $3 million this year. So that's $8 million. And we said we didn't have enough money for Derrick Henry. But Derrick Henry's getting paid $8 million. So, but are we sure Derrick Henry's going to be better than Ezekiel Elliott this year? I mean, I've never seen – you have a multiple position athlete in Ezekiel Elliott. I have never once seen Derrick Henry play center. There is film of Ezekiel Elliott's center highlights. It's not a long video.
Oh, my God.
It's not a long video.
Hey, man, he snapped the ball right.
It's out there.
Oh, he did snap the ball right.
He did.
Wow.
And to be fair, he tried.
He did. He tried.
Yeah.
We're all in, boys.
So
we're all in for an NFL podcast this year.
So what does this mean? So, and this may be something for a different episode.
Maybe we could talk about it now.
But are the expectations for Dak Prescott changing based on the construction of this team?
No. I think the expectations are the same. I think he has to.
Is it SBOB? Are we in SBOB mode?
I don't know what SBOB is.
Yes,
Super Bowl or bust?
Watch those things first.
Oh, I don't watch it as much as you guys do because I'm doing stuff at 2:00, so I don't always get to watch it.
Just record it and watch it later. That's what I do.
YouTube, you poser. It's called YouTube. It's called a record button. Heard of it before?
I know the one time. I know when Bruce said S stats or something like that.
He said shots, assists, steals, and blocks.
Yeah, I remember that, but I don't know. I don't know. I think everyone's already made up their mind about Dak Prescott. I don't think he proves anything to anybody this year. Either you believe that he can win you a Super Bowl or he can't win you a Super Bowl. And at this point, the fan base is already divided. I don't personally. I screw whatever Stephen Jones said yesterday or 2 days ago about that he could believe Dak Prescott can win a Super Bowl, because if he actually did believe that Dak Prescott could win a Super Bowl, he would have paid him already. He would have locked that down already to make sure that he didn't go away. So I don't. People already have made up their minds. Nothing that Dak does this season is going to change it. So my thing is that if we don't believe that Dak Prescott can win us a Super Bowl, why didn't we deal him to another team to get more draft picks to better our position for the coming years? Like, why? Like, my thing is, if the Cowboys already know that Dak Prescott's not their quarterback of the future, why haven't they made the necessary steps to ensure their future?
I've said that since before the extension.
Yeah, and I guess I probably we should have known this about Jerry, how he felt about Dak when he franchise tagged him the first time, and then when he franchise tagged him the second time. Like, I don't think Jerry Jones ever believed that Dak Prescott can win a Super Bowl in Dallas.
Yeah.
So
good intuition.
why not move off of him? Why are you, first off, why are you putting him in this situation? Because regardless of how we feel about Dak's performance, I mean, like, you could have had him go somewhere else and you put Dallas in a better situation if you felt like he wasn't your guy. But Jerry is doing this whole, like, I'm committed to he and I heard someone say this on a show yesterday. It's just like Jerry Jones is like that man who says he wants to get married, but everything he does says boyfriend material. Like, he doesn't actually want to make the commitment, that he'll say all the right things to his girl, to make her just feel like, okay, I'll stick around and I'll stay, but he doesn't commit. And now the whole franchise is basically left in a position to where, like, you don't know what this team is. You don't know what the expectations are. Like, I guess to go, like, not even just to say Dak Prescott, but like, where do you think after this draft and after the moves that we've made, picking up a future Hall of Famer in Ezekiel Elliott, like, where do you think, like, what do you think the Cowboys are going to do this season? What's their record? Do they make the playoffs? What does the postseason look like?
You're being sarcastic in that comment.
Yeah,
100%.
he was.
100%.
Yeah, he was.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think you're saying a lot of good there. I think Jerry Jones rightly believes Dak Prescott is incapable of winning a Super Bowl. My question is the same as you, that if you've known that for all these years, then why is he still there? So what's the point of him being here? And if you didn't feel comfortable booking him for 40 mil, then why are we waiting till we're going to have to pay him 55 to 60 mil? You know, the longer you wait on these things, the more expensive it gets.
Yeah.
And it's not only that Dak is getting more expensive by the day, but CeeDee Lamb's getting more expensive by the day. Micah Parsons is getting more expensive by the day. And you can't let all of them go, because then what are you going to use for your salary cap? So we're at the point now of essentially, it's like 80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, regardless of what they make. You know, like, they find a way to live right up to their ability to make their bills due and whatnot. The Cowboys find a way to stay right at the top of the salary cap line, to where they just don't have enough flexibility to go make any moves. And it's because we wait too long. You look at Philly, what do? They feel good about a player, they extend them as soon as possible.
Exactly.
You look at the Cowboys, what do? We wait to the last minute. And yeah, and in terms of expectations for the year, you know, I think that we will be fighting for a wild card spot. I don't think Dak Prescott's legacy can be hurt this year, unless if we finish third or fourth in the NFC East. If we finish third or fourth in the NFC East, his legacy will take a hit. And if we do not have a winning season, his legacy will take a hit. If Dak is a losing quarterback this year, then his legacy is going to take a hit. It just is, because he is supposed to be the second, you know, closest to winning the MVP last year. He is someone who, David, you tried to bang your fist on the table saying that he needs to be a top 6, top 5 quarterback when we did our quarterback list. Well, then you can't be a losing quarterback, regardless of what your team looks like, because our team isn't trash. I don't like who we went out to get in the draft, but our roster isn't terrible. Now, next year it might be, because we might not have anybody signed, but we don't have a terrible team. We still essentially have Lamb, we have Cooks, we have Ferg. We I think our running back room, weirdly, is a little bit better this year than it was last year, and I don't mean that sarcastically. I just think Pollard was terrible. I think we are a little bit of a step forward because I believe that Ezekiel Elliott, and this is me being serious, what he is good for is slamming in a touchdown on the 1 yard line. And we just didn't have that guy last year. You know, our defense is essentially the same that it was last year. We don't have Gilmore anymore, but we are gaining back Trayvon Diggs off of an injury for the 8 games that he'll play and want to get paid for 17 a year. And so, yeah, I think that the team is good enough to where you don't go 7-9 or 8-9. If Dak goes 8-9 with this team, then you have no defense for him because we are not a sub 500 team. We're just no longer in the where it's reasonable to think that we could contend. That's where we were last year. Like it's not a completely unrealistic thought that the Cowboys can contend for a Super Bowl. We're not there. We're a step down from there, which is contending for a wild card spot. But there's a step lower than that, which is like on the outside looking in, and that's where you're kind of sub 500. And I don't believe that's where we are as a team. David, what you are going to do to this audience is try to convince us the Cowboys are a bad team, because what that does is it gives you an excuse for your boy Dak. And what I'm saying about Dak is I don't need you to – when I'm saying figure it out for Dak Prescott this year, I'm saying figure out a way to win 9 games. Figure that out. At least 9. I can't see him go sub 500. I don't need him to win 12, but we're still better than the Commanders. We're still better than the Giants. So that's 4 games already. We are going to split with Philly because that's what the league wants. So that's 5 wins already. Can you figure out 4 more? And that's all I'm saying. David, you're going to act like that's a wild take. Daniel, you're probably going to land somewhere in between us, probably shading a little bit more to me. And audience at home, sorry that I spoiled the next 10 minutes, but let's hear it.
No, I think before I let David go, because I feel like he has a lot to say. What I think the expectations for Dak are 9 wins. That's the expectation. What I think, but with those 9 wins, we will not make the playoffs. We won't make it.
I can live with that. I don't think that would negatively affect Dak's legacy if he gets 9 wins.
I think there's too many teams in the NFC that I personally feel like are better than the Cowboys, because you look at the 49ers and Philly, obviously. The Rams, I think the Rams get better. You talk about the Packers, the Lions, potentially the Bears with Caleb Williams and their new revamped team. I think they're going to be a lot better this year. So already with those teams, I think Dallas is already going to be scrapping for a playoff spot somewhere in there. I agree. I do not think the Cowboys, because the thing about Dak and the Cowboys for the past couple of years that they've had a top 3, top 5 roster. I don't think that's necessarily the case anymore. I think they still have a top 10 roster.
Yep.
But I think defensively that's gonna be a toss-up what they're gonna be this year, because they've gotten stronger in the linebacker position, sure. Losing Gilmore, I think they lost Neville Gallimore and then also Dorrance Armstrong, who weren't big names, but they were integral to the rotation of that defensive line that helped Micah be able to do it. Now Micah's going to have to work a lot harder now, which, I mean, if you want to get paid $35 million, that's what you got to do. So for me, I think the ceiling is nine wins, and they're going to miss the playoffs. I can pretty much guarantee they're going to miss the playoffs this year.
So that's like a little bit more pessimistic than my take, but we're still pretty close. Okay?
Yeah.
And so, David, tell us why we're insane.
Mm-hmm.
So, audience, just forget everything Savage told you, because he is trying to create this narrative that this has always been Dak's fault, that he is it's funny because he's so bad that he's not worth being the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, but he's not bad enough to where he has this really low bar expectation for Dak Prescott to only get to 9 wins and has to have a winning season, which he's had every single season that he's been the Cowboys quarterback. And this is clearly the worst roster that he's ever had in his entire career, right? He also goes on to say that the Cowboys defense is pretty much the same as it was last year, right? Is that what you said? It's essentially the same as it was last year?
I think production-wise, it'll be about the same.
Okay.
Not good in the run, pretty good in the pass.
Yeah.
We'll go from there.
So, do you know what the Cowboys defense did in every single big game last year against a team that was over 500?
They folded.
Every single time. Not sometimes, every single time. Right? So you're talking about a team. So how talented is this team if every single time they show up or every time they go to the stadium and play a playoff caliber team that they fold every single time? That defense is not good.
You're making my point.
So how do you expect a quarterback with CeeDee Lamb, who is an all-pro, Brandon Cooks, who Mike McCarthy only got him when he is a career and averaging over 1,000 yards a season, who only last year averaged under 700 yards last year because he couldn't figure out how to use him. You're having a Rico Dowdle who is going to be the Tony Pollard of this situation, meaning that he gets the bulk of the carries and he averages 4.1 yards a carry. You get Ezekiel Elliott, who averaged 3.5 yards a carry the year before that. And then you have an entire offensive line that is 4 out of the 5 starters are rookies or are starting for the first time in an extended season. And you're saying, and then you look at our schedule, and our schedule is Baltimore, Cincinnati, Detroit, Houston, Tampa Bay, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and then the Falcons. So you are looking at 9 teams that were over 500 last year. But we said every single time that this defense played against a over 500 team, they folded every single time. And we lost all those games.
You're making
even the game. No, because I've already given you 9 losses on our schedule.
No,
not even including the one that we split. No, I gave you 9.
NFC South 500 doesn't count. NFC South 500 doesn't count. That division is terrible.
Basically, Tampa Bay is going to be the Green Bay Packers to us last year. Because Savage, you are not getting my point. This defense over every single 500 team folded. What was Tampa Bay last year? Over 500.
It's an NFC South 500.
It doesn't matter. They went farther in the playoffs and played better in the playoffs than we did. Period, bar none. I don't care what the record was. I don't care what division they were. They went farther than we were and were more competitive in the playoffs than the Dallas Cowboys with all of this talent.
And also the defense that we're talking about was the defense prior to the Green Bay Packers game you said wouldn't score 20 points on this defense. And they scored 48 or 40. Depending on the pick 6. So to David's point, there's teams that we don't think are going to be up to par just simply because you pointed out Jordan Love's his last stretch of the season was because he played bad teams and this and that. But when it came to playing the Dallas Cowboys defense, he shredded them.
Sure. And isn't that the whole point?
To me, it's not outside of the realm of possibility that Baker Mayfield is going to do the same thing to this Cowboys defense. Even I don't know what was the other team that you named, David? Atlanta.
Yeah, I'm real scared of Atlanta. Horrified.
You should be.
It's Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and now
even if we don't Kirk Cousins. Is Dak better than Kirk Cousins?
I think that Kirk Cousins is right there with Dak Prescott, just a little bit on in terms of throwing the football. Like before he got hurt and tore his ACL last year, Minnesota was playing good ball with Kirk Cousins throwing the football. Don't get it twisted that they were losing their because who's throwing him the ball? Because what did Minnesota do after Kirk Cousins left? Was just Justin Jefferson averaging the same amount of yards without him? No, he clearly was not. He was clearly not. And Justin Jefferson almost broke the single season record for receiving yards with Kirk Cousins as his quarterback. Stop it. Stop it. I'm not going to let you do that and undermine a quarterback who clearly can sling the ball and throw it. Okay? We're not doing that because we just saw Jordan Love in his first year carve up the Dallas Cowboys defense. Stop it.
Okay. So hold on. Let me talk now. Let me talk now. Let me say words, okay? Because audience, I just told you what was going to happen. That's exactly what just happened. Almost 10 minutes on the dot. David,
you got caught.
You practically made my case. Here's what happened. You said the defense didn't show up last year. They're not going to show up this year. Okay, that's going to be about the same. All right, the offense widely is about the same. We can disagree. If you think last year's running back room is going to have more production than this year's running back room, I disagree with that. Okay, you said 4 out of our 5 offensive linemen is either going to be a rookie or first-time starter. Did we lose Zach Martin?
No, but I think he's the only one who
Okay, so Zach Martin and Tyler Smith, those are 2 starters that started last year. Blake Hoffman started a bunch of the year last year between center and guard. He's been around for a while. Okay, and then Terrence Steele, he started all of the last few years. So your take on the offensive lineman is objectively wrong. It doesn't matter if he sucks. You said 4 out of the 5 are going to be rookies or first-time starters. You were objectively wrong on the offensive lineman take. What I am saying is, and what you said that I believe about Dak is true. I think that he is bad enough to where I don't want him to be our starting quarterback, but he's good enough to where he should win 9 games. I agree with that. The reason I don't want him to be the quarterback of the Cowboys, though, isn't because I believe he is a terrible quarterback. I don't believe that. What I'm saying about Dak is that I don't believe that he is going to win a Super Bowl. And so if you don't think that, there's no reason to pay a guy big money. It's not as much to do with the player as much as the money associated with the player and what that does to your cap. So I agree with you, but not for the reason that you're saying. But here's the deal, audience. This is just what I told you was going to happen. Daniel closely agreed with me. We were a little bit different. He was in the middle, closer to me. And David he spent a lot of time trying to say everything I said was ridiculous. That was the plot.
And Daniel agreed with me that your case about the defense was objectively wrong as well.
I think
like don't leave out details and context just because you want to put one up on me. Because what we're looking at the schedule for this year. 9 of those teams that I named were over 500 teams, and every single game that we played over a 500 team, the defense folded last year. And you said the defense was essentially the same. So if we're looking at 9 games, and that's not even including one game against Philadelphia, to where now you're looking at 10 teams that were over 500 last season and that are significantly better and had better off seasons than we did. We're now looking at a schedule to where the defense is possibly going to fold 10 games of our 17 games of the year. And you're saying, Dak, you got to get us to 9 wins. Like, to me, that is unfair of an expectation.
I think the schedule. I think the schedule over 500, that is a compelling point because we can't ignore the fact that he's right. Like the defense did fold against every good offense that we saw. And I think it's even extended past last season. So I think that is a very compelling point. The fact that we're going to play 10 of those teams this year, for me, hearing that, now that's worrisome. That's worrisome.
I don't believe all 10 are going to be over 500 this year. I am not that worried about Cleveland. Cleveland's 500 record wasn't because of their offense. Let's be clear. Cleveland had a bad offense. If they had a decent offense, they might have won the Super Bowl, right? They had your boy Joe Flacco playing quarterback.
But here's the thing. One thing that they know how to do is run the football. And guess what Dallas is bad at? Stopping the run.
Yo, so I'm not saying that I'm for sure right. I'm just saying what I think is going to happen. That's all I'm doing. And I'm trying to predict the future of the show as best as I can.
I think
and you were wrong. You did not. I was able to convince Daniel because I made good points
I think
and lead our audience and say, guys, we do not. I do not believe there's no way that you can look at me and say that this is a top 10 roster. Performance-wise, when we've seen what this team has done against teams over 500. Now we could have all, and I was talking about somebody with this last week and said, listen, we may have one of the most talented rosters and names on a roster before, but when it comes to production and playing in the big games, we do not have a top 10 roster.
Yeah, and
like we don't. And I even think that last year, us being ranked number 4 in the entire NFL was fraudulent because we saw what happened in every single big game. And we even saw in the Seattle game.
That was part of my
the Seattle game was the one game where I looked at the Cowboys and said, this is a problem. After the Seattle game, Daniel, you remember, we came on this show and we said after that win, we said, this defense is a problem. And then they proceeded to lose to Buffalo, to Detroit, to Miami. And then and then Green Bay came to us and they let up 41 points on them. So how David, good is this team?
I think
David, you've done a good job of saying why I'm wrong. You have not put an expectation out for Dak. What's your expectation of Dak this year? You're muted.
I think your mic came undone.
Okay. My expectations for Dak is that he can't be the reason why we lose these games. I don't really care about what the record is, whether we don't make the playoffs or whether we're sub 500, because here's the thing. And I know this is not us, but this is just the way that the world works. People look at Justin Herbert, who has losing records, who doesn't have a really talented team, and they said that he's a top 5 quarterback, right? So no, I don't think that Dak has to win over 8 to 9 games for his legacy to be secured. I think it depends on the way that he plays this season that will determine whether his legacy takes a hit or not. And here's what I mean by that. Let's say that we're in a close ball game, right? And it's 24-27, right? Dak is going down the field and he throws a pick late in the game and we lose, right? If he has a string of games like that and he's turning the ball over and we lose, like, I'm going to look at Dak and being like, okay, that's on you. You've regressed, this, that, whatever. But if Dak is slinging the ball and we're scoring 35 points and the other team scores 40 points, I'm not going to look at Dak Prescott if we're 7-10 or 8-9 and being like, yeah, Dak, you suck. You shouldn't be the Cowboys quarterback. Like, it depends on how he plays. If he does his job and we still lose, which that is more than capable of happening, I'm not going to blame Dak Prescott and say, oh, yeah, this entire season was Dak Prescott's fault. I'm not.
Yeah. So let me make sure I understand your take. Or let me ask you a question about your take to see where you land. So if it's 38-35, Dak has the ball, we're marching, and we need to score a touchdown to take the lead.
Yes.
He throws a bad pick. I believe from what you just said, you would come out and say, Dak, you can't make that pass. But I believe what you'll do on that next show is say, guys, the defense shouldn't have given up 38 points, which I'm not saying is wrong, but I'm just saying I don't believe you're going to keep that same energy, because I think you're going to find a reason to explain why it's not Dak's fault, because I feel like that's what I've seen for a while now. But we're just going to have to wait and see, boys. I mean, David, it shouldn't be shocked to anyone that we disagree on the state of the Mavs. That's fine. That's fine. I don't see a world where Dak can go 4-13 and me say, well, wasn't really his fault. I can't see that.
And for me, that's what I would differ, because the take that I was formulating and I shared a little bit with you guys is the fact that through these whole negotiations, what I've heard about the Cowboys, Dak, the whole situation is, Dak has 9 All-Pros. His team is stacked. They're this and that. And then I just remember, this is a defense that constantly just falls. And Savage, I think you believe in this defense way more than I believe in this defense, because after that Buffalo
Well, I don't
game,
believe in this defense.
I
don't
just
believe in
went
this
off and just completely gave up on him. I do not believe in Micah Parsons as a player. I just don't.
I don't disagree.
And so for me, that's where when people say, "Hey, Dak has had 9 All Pros," I was like, "Did he really? Did he really have 9 All Pros?" Because for me, a true All Pro, is someone who doesn't just show up in the regular season. It's someone who shows up also in the postseason. And not to say that Dak has been that guy that's shown up in the postseason, but for me, he's not the only one who hasn't shown up in the postseason.
I agree.
And there's been games where Dak has played well against above 500 teams, and the defense clearly just hasn't. Just as a unit, they just don't do that. So for me, it's not out of the realm of possibility that throughout this season, could I see Dak, similar to the Miami game, play well, get the Cowboys into a lead, ask your all-pro defense with arguably the best defensive player who ever lived on your side, and you just get us one stop. And they're going to continuously fold. For me, that's what I foresee happening. Not saying that it's going to, but I think I believe Dak is good enough to win you 9 games, despite the defense.
Absolutely.
That's what I think.
If he's number 2 if he's the second MVP runner-up, then yeah, he can win 9 games.
For me, whether I think he can win a Super Bowl here or not is neither here nor there, but I do believe he's a good enough player to overcome a bad defense, which that's what I think the Cowboys are. I think the same criticism.
David's point, it's what we were last year.
The same criticism Dak gets for beating up on bad teams is not a criticism that the defense gets. That's my only issue about the whole thing, is that the energy that we have for Dak, we don't have it for these other players who are all pros, who we believe are better at their positions than Dak is at his. And I just don't think we hold them to the same standard. Now, whether it's because
we don't.
the position that he plays or his contract, that's one thing. But I think, David, I think you made a great point about the schedule and how I could see them letting up 35, 40 points to all the teams that you mentioned. I do see them doing that. But I just want to have the belief that Dak's better than that. Than only winning 4 games.
Yeah.
You would think so, but then
that's what I think you're saying.
If we go 4-13, like that has to speak to Dak to some extent. I just don't see how it doesn't. And we disagree on that, and that's fine.
Yeah.
We don't. We don't. If the Cowboys go 4-13, Dak's clearly going to be part of the problem. But if the Cowboys go 7-10, 8-9, 9-8, it depends on how he plays, that we look at that season and we said, okay, was it like, I think Dak is always going to get some blame, because I don't think that you can go 7-10 and not have some games to where you're not at fault for that. But for him to constantly be the only person that we talk about when we have detailed that the defense has shown up less than Dak Prescott in big games for the last 2 seasons, like to me, that's what drives me crazy, because we think no, it doesn't matter. See, and I'm tired of people saying that, because what have the Dallas Cowboys been in the last 30 years since we won the Super Bowl in 1996? Answer me that question.
Back to the Tennessee Titans, he's not getting a sleep number commercial. He's not getting all of these ad revenues. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. You're the quarterback of America's team. Even if America's team hasn't done anything, I don't care anything.
I don't care anything about that when it comes to on the field team performances. It doesn't matter about the commercials or interviews or all that stuff gets if the team that's surrounding you and comes around you doesn't show up, but you're the one who gets all the blame for it. Makes no sense. It never makes sense. And the fact that we're just okay with that, and we say, well, heavy that wears the crown, that's dumb. Like, why don't we change that narrative? Why aren't we trying to be part of the solution to fairly evaluate quarterbacks and critique quarterbacks and change narratives? I'm tired of this whole like, oh, well, you know what? We didn't have a good running game last year, so like we don't need it this year. But you expect Dak Prescott to carry you to a Super Bowl, even though you're the one who came on after the San Francisco 49ers lost the Super Bowl, and you said, you know what, they needed Christian McCaffrey to run the ball more.
Who's
you were the guy who said that.
Dak to win the Super Bowl. I said I expect Dak to win 9 games. That's not a Super Bowl.
But what you're saying is that you don't believe that Dak Prescott can win you a Super Bowl.
You're
failing to acknowledge I don't expect him to win a Super Bowl in Dallas. I expect him to win it? Okay, so answer me this question. Do you think that Dak Prescott can win a Super Bowl elsewhere?
Depending on the situation, maybe.
Cleveland. Would he win it in Cleveland?
He'd win it in Cleveland.
With everything
Nick Chubb,
the same right now,
Amari Cooper.
All you do is take off.
I mean, you look Nick Chubb. They have a great offensive line. David Njoku, Amari Cooper.
Yep.
Great defense. A defense that actually shows up.
I think he would be listen, if you put Cleveland in the NFC, maybe we could maybe I'm ready to take
fair.
that.
Sure,
that's fair. I'm okay with that.
That's fair.
Yeah. So tough. But yeah, what I'm saying, I don't believe Dak can win a Super Bowl. I believe Dak is going to retire a Cowboy. So when I'm saying I don't believe Dak can win a Super Bowl, I'm assuming he's staying here, and with how much he gets paid here, we don't have the money to build up a team around him that we need. I believe our front office is relatively incapable of building a team around him that he needs. I think that maybe this year our defense might be, here's the deal. I think that Mike Zimmer might help the backbone of this defense some because, I think that Dan Quinn was too happy. From what I understand about Mike Zimmer, he's mean. I have a friend who we watched a Mavericks game together, and he said, I'm excited about Mike Zimmer because he's going to make Micah feel bad after every play. And I kind of laughed at that, but it's also like, Dan Quinn's too happy. So maybe that helps build a backbone. I'm not expecting our defense to be world beaters, but what I'm saying, I think there's several aspects to it. And because of that, I don't think he's going to win a Super Bowl. I'm not saying it's all his fault. I'm saying, though, but if you're really committed to winning, like Tom Brady was, he took several pay cuts to be able to have a team to build. Now, he might not take a pay cut because he doesn't believe the Cowboys can build a team, and that's fair. I'm just saying I don't believe he can win, but I do believe that he can win 9 games, and I don't feel like that's too much to ask for. He can't be the second closest winning MVP and then also say, how can you expect him to win 9 games? Because that's all of the praise and none of the criticism. And so David, you're almost guilty of the opposite thing that I'm doing or what you're thinking I'm doing, which I don't think I am doing. But you're willing to give him all of the praise and really hard to give him blame. And maybe that's a good balance the show needs. And Daniel, I think once again, you're staying the most level-headed between the three of us. And I think your take is closest to being right. I think David and I are both missing it. I think you're closer to right. And I think that's just because of how biased both of us are in either direction.
I think where David is at is where if I was a 49ers fan, I would be that way with Brock Purdy. That's where David is right now. Where you are is where I was 2-3 years ago, David, right? Where everything that
you blame Dak for everything,
and I was probably way more extreme than you, Savage. I'm gonna tell you that I was way more extreme than you were.
We had an episode that we made on our birthday. We had to cut 30 minutes of it because it was just us screaming at each other for 30 minutes.
We'll probably have to cut a little bit out of this episode.
So Savage, I've been where you're at right now. I've been there. I think where the reason why I'm kind of, I guess, more level-headed, I've been through it, and also I have a new vendetta. To be fair, I have a new vendetta, and I'm on the anti-Micah Parsons train right now.
Oh my gosh, Daniel, you can't.
Yo, I like Dak.
No, and not like Micah as a person or anything like that. I just mean like, and here's where it stems from, just so that way people don't get the wrong idea. It stems from the fact that for 13 games in a year, he's great. After that, he disappears. That's all it is.
Yes,
but here's
that's my take.
But here's my thing. My thing is that I think for both, this is where I'm consistent. I think with both Dak and Micah, I think it's been because of the situations around them that has caused them to drop off later in the season. I think that Dan Quinn, for some reason, decided to take a break from coaching in weeks 14 through 17, and once we get into the playoffs, for the most part. And I think that. So I think I give Micah Parsons a opportunity to change the narrative, because now he has a DC that Savage was saying is going to be tough on him. That's going to hold him accountable. That's going to push him to be better.
I don't know if he likes being coached that way. It's all about
guess
how
what?
you take feedback.
Guess what? If he doesn't take that well, then my opinion of Micah will change.
Absolutely.
Because I don't think that you can have that. I don't think you can have that attitude and be a player that we would want on our football team.
Hey, you can't coach effort. And I think for Micah, that's been unfortunately, the narrative him in the back end of year. He takes plays off. And if that wasn't a discussion that was being had, then I would agree with you. But the fact of the matter is, his effort has been in question. And what I've heard from, coaches that have been around, like high school, college, all those things, they said that defense, a good bit of it is effort, and Micah doesn't have it. And so, again, I don't believe much in Mike Zimmer. There's a reason why he was available. There's a reason why when he was a head coach, his defense dipped. Don't know how that's going to translate over here. Again, we'll see. The optimistic side of me has died. I'm just like, honestly, I'm more of I need to see it to believe it type guy now.
Yeah.
That simple.
Really, David, and you're not going to like me saying this.
I never do.
You're really not going to like this, but I'm gonna kindly request 60 seconds to make my point.
I'm gonna put myself on mute.
My take is a pro Dak Prescott take. It is. Because what I'm saying is, I believe he is good enough to overcome the defense and win you 9 games. I think he is that caliber of a player. I think he's that good. I think he has enough weapons. I think that it is not outside of the realm of possibility for Dak Prescott to hang somewhere in the mid-30s every game. I'm not saying that's a fair expectation. I'm not saying that's what I'm expecting. I'm saying I believe he's capable of that because I've seen him do it. This year, I moved Dak Prescott ahead of Tony Romo in my all-time Cowboy quarterback rankings. And I loved Romo. And I still have Dak ahead of Romo. Now, I took him off for 2 weeks because I was emotional. But I put him back up because I've never seen Romo orchestrate an offense to the extent that Dak did for the grand majority of the year. I believe he can do that again. I believe he will do that again. I think we have the weapons. And I think having an Ezekiel Elliott who – a big thing about the Miami game was Tony Pollard. How did he not run in that touchdown from 2 yards out? Remember, it's that picture that gets clipped, and it's like, I believe Zeke makes that touchdown because I've seen him do it hundreds of times. I also saw in that same game, I saw Hunter Lepke fumble on the goal line. I don't believe Zeke fumbles that ball. In fact, I believe that's a touchdown because I've seen him do it
the same drive.
I'm not saying that the running back room will get more yardage, but I think it's going to be a more productive room because I think that Dak is fully capable of driving a team to the red zone and handing the ball off to Zeke and letting Zeke get those tough yards there at the end. So my take is a pro Dak take. I'm saying that I believe he can get 9 wins, overcome this defense. But if he is a losing quarterback this year, he's a losing quarterback. And we can't in one hand say, well, yeah, we know the truth about Justin Herbert, that he can put up all these great stats. But at the end of the day, what has he done? And then not keep that same energy for Dak. That's all I'm saying. But I don't believe that's going to happen because I made that clear. What I said I think we're going to do is win 9 to 10 games and possibly make the playoffs. I'm the only one in this call who thinks that we can make the playoffs. So I don't know how I'm being labeled as the anti-Dak guy. I'm just saying, Dak, if you can't win 8 games, then maybe I'm wrong. That's all I'm saying, David.
Yeah, I think
we're closer than it seems like we are.
Yeah, I think the difference between you and me, Savage, is if we get to a point where we don't win 9 games, my reasons might be different than yours. That's where we differ. Not that Dak wouldn't get any blame for me, because I think he would. But I think I would put more on the defense than on Dak.
I've just seen too many games last year to where the defense sold. Like, and I mean, I can walk you through them. Arizona's one game to where I think even offensively we weren't playing well because we were down offensive linemen. Dak was getting sacked, but then Dak would make a miraculous run out of the pocket, pick up 15 yards for a first down, and guess what? Penalty flag. Then he would go on, he would drive down the field, and he would score a touchdown. So the game is like, it was like 13-18, and we're just like, okay, we feel good. What does the defense do? They give up a 75-yard drive for a touchdown with 6 minutes to go, and it's 25-13. And so, like, we have that game. Then we have the Seattle Seahawks game, to where the defense was terrible all game long, and Dak literally throws a guy off of him to complete a pass to Jalen Tolbert. He's flexing on Diggs for Seattle. Jake Ferguson, who I think is going to be the greatest tight end of all time if he stays a Cowboy, he's flexing on him. He goes and he makes a play, and the Cowboys win.
That's the episode we should have cut.
No, I'm keeping it because I'm gonna be right.
And he said he was better than Jason Witten right now.
No, I did not. I did not say that. I did not. That's why it wasn't cut. That's why it wasn't cut, because I didn't say that. I just said that if he kept being a Cowboy, he would.
He would be the greatest tight end. We gonna win 7 games.
I don't know. What I'm saying is that I've seen way too many times in this past season to where the offense does what they're supposed to do, and they say, defense, give us a shot. And the defense every single time folded. I 100% believe that that's going to happen again this season. There's just no way around it. So if and that's not even including, we could drop a game to another team that's not even 500 just because we're the Cowboys, and we do that sometimes. So for me, it's hard.
We're supposed to win because we do that too.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a game last year that we won a game where we weren't supposed to.
Beating Philly on the road.
No, but we didn't beat Philly on the road.
Or the
we beat them here.
But
we do that. I thought we were going to beat Philly. I thought we were going to smoke Philly.
I'm saying nationwide.
Well, because we already beat them. We always split with Philly, so that's why I was confident that we were going to do it. There wasn't a game last year that I looked at and said, "Oh, I don't know if we're going to win it." That we actually did win. There's none last year.
I feel like there's always a game like
that. But even then, like, I don't think. I think that I think that Dak is capable of winning 9 to 10 games this year? Yes, but here's where I think you said that I would think this, and this is where I'm going to disagree. I think that if the Cowboys win 9 to 10 games this year, the defense is going to get credit for me, because I don't think that we can win 9 to 10 games without them. I don't. I think that if they play the way that they played last year, we're going to win 7 to 8 games. That's just what I think. So I think if the Cowboys win 9 to 10 games next year and we're a playoff team, the defense is going to have to get a huge slice of that pie, because they're playing above their ability, and we need them to win 9 to 10 games. I just don't think the way that it's constructed and what I've seen in the past that they're going to be capable of doing it. That's why I look at a quarterback like Dak Prescott and says, if you win 7 to 8 games next year, like, depending on how you play, will determine whether I decide, man, you go up or down on my list.
Yeah. I hear that. I received that, Pastor.
Well, we spent a lot of time talking about the Cowboys draft and talking a lot about Dak Prescott, which we always do on this show. But just very quickly before we move on to our quarterback expectations, do you guys have any picks on you thought that were like just show stealers in the draft this year?
I mean, the one that surprised me was the fact that Washington actually went with Jaden Daniels, because what we were hearing before that was that they didn't like him and they didn't want him. And for Cowboys fans, for me and Savage, we were excited about that. We thought they were going to land J.J. McCarthy with the second overall pick.
Mm.
That would have been 10 years of bliss, or maybe 3, because they would have discarded him by then.
There had to be sin in our camp. There was sin in our camp that we needed to repent of before the draft.
I mean, I think maybe they were like trying to just fool everyone and kind of be like, oh, they're not really going to take them. But for me, Jaden Daniels, he's going to be good. He's going to be good.
Absolutely.
So for me, the whole Cowboys may go to third place thing may not be impossible, but we'll see. But for me, I really like the Jaden Daniels pick to Washington. I think that was good for them. They now have a franchise quarterback, which they haven't had. You know, I don't know if we want to label Kirk Cousins as a franchise quarterback for them.
No, apparently he's great.
But for me, that was
Minnesota, not Washington. But yeah,
I won't answer your question directly, but I'll answer it in a way that I don't think that they stole the show. But I believe in life. When I see growth and maturity, you need to recognize that. And I think the New York Jets showed a lot of maturity in this draft.
Yeah.
Because they could have got Brock Bowers. They could have got them a nice, shiny toy. And instead, what they said is, I'm getting a young tackle because I know Tyron Smith is going to be able to play 4 games this year. So when he goes down, I don't want Rodgers to go down with him. And so I was very impressed by the Jets in their first-round pick taking a tackle. It's cool because it's like usually when you have a chance to draft a player that everyone thinks they're going to be a Pro Bowler every year, you take that opportunity. Not all teams do that, but I'm proud to see it when it's there. And that tackle from Bama is the guy who they got, right? That dude, I think Marius Mims, kid's a beast. So good job, Jets.
Yeah. Mine's going to be a funny one. I think the Las Vegas Raiders had a great draft this past season because they're getting ready to get their quarterback of the future, Dak Prescott. Garner Minshew is not going to be their starter, I don't think, long term. I think he's just a placeholder for right now. I like him too, but I just don't think he's that franchise quarterback guy. I think they made moves to where, because they were in a position to take a quarterback. I think they were in a position to take a quarterback, and they said, no, we're good for this year because we know who's going to be available next season. And so I applaud Las Vegas. I think they made a great decision. Who knows? I might be cheering. I might be going into Raider Nation here pretty soon. That's on brand for someone like me, being Hispanic. Most of us are Raiders.
It's not more on brand than the Cowboys.
They're both,
but not as much.
Usually those are the two. Well, so it's like it's the Niners, it's the Raiders, it's the Cowboys.
But
those are like the 3 teams.
Yeah, the Cowboys fan base.
Well, if you live in,
there's a lot of San Francisco 49ers. Because remember, our dad was a 49ers fan before he was a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, that would be my team if I were to go pick another team.
Yeah.
If I were to pick another team, listen.
You go Cincinnati with.
I pick the Dallas Cowboys. All right, because I've only ever lived in Dallas. I'm a Dallas kid, and I'm going to suffer through the bad so that maybe one day before I die, I can see us win a Super Bowl.
I think we will before we die. It just is not going to be any time while Jerry's owning the team.
Dude, I'm all about reject good for great. You know, Cowboys are good. Maybe someone's greater.
Yeah. All righty. Well, real quick, as we're wrapping up the show, there were 6 quarterbacks taken with the first 12 picks in the NFL draft. Historic draft for QBs here. So we're going to run down through what are our expectations for each of these quarterbacks heading into it. Obviously, starting with the number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams. Savage, what are the expectations for Caleb?
The expectations for Caleb, and when I'm thinking about this, I'm trying to think of like you need to at least hit this mark. You need to at least have the second best season of a quarterback in Bears history. Because the Bears have never had a good quarterback, except, who they always talk about, Sid Luckman, right? I think the Bears need to at least get third in their division and they need to not be eliminated from playoff contention until the end of the regular season. They can't be eliminated in week 15. That's my expectations. If he is who they say he is.
Well, if he is who people say he is, he needs to go to the postseason. He needs to win 10 games. He needs to have the best season any rookie quarterback has ever had. Those are my expectations. Now, will he live up to those? I don't know. But how people are hyping him up, he's the next Patrick Mahomes. You need to have the best season a rookie quarterback has had.
So, just a quick question. Do you guys think that the hype that Caleb Williams is receiving, is that partially because of the way that he conducts himself, or do you think that that's just how it's because of how everyone's talking about them, or both?
I mean, for me, I think both. I think the way his play style, the way he plays the game, just shouts, "Look at me, I'm a superstar." How he conducts himself is he's already put the target on his back by saying, "I want to be the GOAT." And I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong if he said that he doesn't think that playing in the NFL is going to be hard. He said it's going to be easier.
And he told his punter that he's not going to be punting a whole lot.
That too.
Yeah.
So I think he's putting that on himself. So I'm going to trust to believe him, but I'm going to put the expectations on him.
Right. I think for me, that's kind of I need to understand and know that before I set those expectations. But if those are the things that he is saying, I think I'm with Savage. I think that they need to be contending for the playoffs late in the regular season. I don't know if it's S-spot, but he has to be contending for that 7th seed. And he can't be the reason why they don't. Because if you're doing all this talking and saying, I'm going to be the GOAT, my punter's not going to punt too much, the NFL's not going to be that hard, like, do it then. Like, get it done. Show that. Figure it out. Figure it out. I think if a player is that confident, he's saying this kinds of stuff and he hasn't even taken a snap in the NFL, those should be the expectations. Because you're basic. Savage, nod your head if you agree with me. Essentially what he's saying is, I'm going to figure it out this year. Like, he's saying, Mr. Savage, I am going to figure it out. Go ahead and grade me on this year. That's what he's doing.
He will be a frequent flyer on the Figure It Out segment in the regular season, I believe.
Yeah. I can't wait for that segment.
Because he did put this target on his back. So those are the expectations for Caleb Williams. Next quarterback, Daniel, you're going to go first. What are the expectations for Jaden Daniels coming out of Washington?
Look, it seems like the Commanders are just like, hey, let's take the rejects of the Dallas Cowboys roster and let's build the team. That's essentially what it is. Also, I have no idea who his offensive coordinator is. I can't think of the name for the life of me.
Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury.
I believe in Jaden Daniels. I do. I think he'll be either second or third place in the NFC East, contending for a playoff spot with above average numbers. That's where I think he's going to be this year.
My My expectations for Jaden Daniels is what
That's
I
an LSU
think is a
Tiger fan.
fair expectation to set for a rookie quarterback, which is don't be the reason why you lose.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that's a fair expectation for a made man, but for a rookie, I'm just kidding. I'm just being petty. But I actually do think, like, you're not going to win a bunch of games. There's a reason why you are the number 2 pick in the draft, and that's because the team you're going to stinks. The Bears are an anomaly with how they've positioned
Yeah.
themselves. But usually you're an early pick. The team you're going to sucks. And I'm going to be honest,
Not
the
good.
Commanders suck. They're bad. They're
Yeah.
not good. So I don't think that they're going to win a bunch of games. I think that they still might finish 4th place, but don't be why you lose. Don't let it be because you are, leading the league in picks or because you, just score 8 points a game or 10 points a game, right? Don't
Sure.
make Commanders fans wish they still had Sam Howell,
Yeah.
So that's my take. That's my expectation.
Yeah. To me, that's an easy expectation for Jaden Daniels to meet, I think. I don't think it's setting the ball that high for him
The Commanders
because
Yeah.
I think Sam Howell was not good for them. I mean, he threw for a lot of yards, but he also threw a lot of picks too. I think Jaden can put up numbers and not turn the ball over. And so I do think that my thing is just don't be worthy of the 2nd overall pick this upcoming season. Now, what I hope that I don't want to say I hope because that would bode bad for the Cowboys, but I just like Jaden Daniels' game a lot, so I want him to succeed. I kind of want him to have like a CJ Stroud season, where we look at him and be like, wow, this kid's insane. I think he has that kind of talent and capability. But realistically, I think you just have to be way better than you were this past season. You may not win a lot of games, but be competitive in all of those games. I think that's a great thing for Jaden Daniels to do, is just be competitive and make teams sweat. And I think he will. I think that that's the standard that he's going to set for Washington, is that not this season, but next season, when you see Washington on your schedule, you'll be like, oh, that's going to be a fight. That's going to be a hard game. Like, we're going to have to really get ready and prepare. I think that's the kind of talent that Jaden Daniels has and what he's going to bring to Washington. Next, Drake May. Savage. I'm gonna start this one because it's kind of hard to, like, it's New England. They are starting over. New coach. The team doesn't seem to be very good. Is the expectations just don't be as bad as Mac Jones was? Is that a fair? Or is it again because of what people thought of him that he should have higher expectations of that?
Well, what people thought of him wasn't that he's going to be great immediately. He is the Tyler Guyton of quarterbacks. He could be really great, but it's going to take a while to get there. So what I would say is a fair expectation for Drake May is give me 5 moments this season, 5 plays where I'm like, oh my goodness, this kid could be something. That's all I want. You have basically nothing on the offensive end of the ball.
Yeah.
You have a first-time head coach and first year of the new system. The defense has been okay at best, but it's a young defense because they let go of some of their vets. Just give me 5 plays where it's like, whoa, this guy might be the best quarterback in this class in 5 years. Just 5 moments. That's all I want.
Yeah, I think for me, it is do not be Mac Jones. That's where it is. Because I think, like Savage said about Jaden Daniels, like, you're only going to be as good as your team is that you were drafted on. And this team is, I think, worse than Washington in a lot of ways. At least Jaden Daniels has some weapons. Drake May has nothing. And so for me, I think that's Just don't be as bad as Mac Jones. Don't have stupid plays. Don't look completely awful. I'm gonna agree with Savages. Hey, give me moments. Give me some moments. Give me some inkling of, man, that was one heck of a throw. When he gets some teammates, wow, he's gonna be really good. That's my expectation for him.
And then the next quarterback is J.J. McCarthy going to Minnesota. Minnesota, I think, traded up for him. I believe they traded up to get him. What, Daniel? What are the expectations for J.J. McCarthy?
I'm going to place these expectations. I don't think he's going to hit them, but this is what I'm placing upon him. The team traded up to come get you. You have a superstar receiver in Justin Jefferson. You need to be, I want to say you need to be over 4,000 yards, throw for at least 25, 26 touchdowns. Do not turn the ball over that much. Or you're going to hand the ball off the whole year. It's one of the two. There's no middle for me. They traded up to get you. They must think that you're worth it. Do I think he's that? No. But we'll see. Either play well or just hand the ball off for a year.
4,000 yards.
4,000 yards.
Has he thrown 4,000 yards in his career? Like
I don't even
know.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm saying like from Little League all the way to
barely.
college.
That's what I'm saying.
I think barely.
That's what I'm saying. The pick makes no sense to me. When you have a superstar like that as your receiver and you get a quarterback
must have shown something. He
who
must have shown something to them.
And so I'm placing those expectations on him.
I thought I had a tough expectation.
My
expectation is my expectation is make the playoffs.
Yeah, me too.
Make the playoffs. I don't care how you get there. Just get there. If it's, a fantastic statistical season, the reason why you trade up to get McCarthy, the reason why there are smart football people who like McCarthy is because I don't like this reasoning, but it's the reasoning of he's a winner. He wins games. I mean, really, I guess I should like him because it seems like he is a figure-it-out guy. He wins. So if that's your billing, then that's what I need to see. You have a great offense. You have a defense that's not terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, the last quarterback supposedly was going to win the MVP before he got hurt in that system. So make the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think you look at his weapons on the offensive end, you just got Aaron Jones, who carved up the Cowboys. You got Justin Jefferson, who I think is
Jordan Addison.
I think he's the best receiver in the NFL right now. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson. Like you've got some studs on that offensive side. And like Daniel said, they moved up to draft you, to take you. Clearly, they thought that he was going to be better than Kirk Cousins. So you need to play at his level or higher because they thought that you were better than him. Or it probably was because of age too. So I don't know.
Probably he's younger than Kirk.
I don't know if 4,000 yards is doable for him in his rookie season.
Yeah, maybe. But, I'm gonna temper that.
But you have to be competent at throwing the football.
Yeah.
I understand the figure it out of he has to figure it out, but I also think that he has to play a part in why they're winning games. His arm, his decision making, it has to be, because I don't think you can rely on Aaron Jones and make the playoffs. I think you have to utilize Justin Jefferson as much as you possibly, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson. You have to use them. And so if you can be productive and you can hold your own and you can put up your own kind of numbers, 4,000 yards seems a little bit much, but 3,500, is that too much to ask for him? If he hasn't done it, I don't think he did it at Michigan, not even once.
Mm-hmm.
But you have all these weapons,
18
you should do it.
5 interceptions.
So go and get it done, because they drafted you, they traded up to get you. So playoffs, and you have to be one of the reasons why, I think. Next, we have Bo Nix, who went to Denver. I don't know what Savage. What are the expectations for Denver and for Bo Nix?
Be the starter by the end of the year.
Do you think Zach Wilson's going to start?
I don't know. I think that he might start over Zach Wilson, and if he starts over Zach Wilson, don't lose the job. Or if Zach Wilson starts, he's going to give you plenty of opportunities to take that job from him, right? And so I just think the expectation is, can you be the clear-cut starter by the end of the year?
I'm gonna second that. I'm definitely gonna second that, because Sean Payton's a hard person to please, and if he took you by the end of the year, you better be someone he can believe in moving forward. Simple.
Yeah. And then last, I picked him last because of what his situation was. He went as the 8th overall pick, Michael Penix Jr., to the Atlanta Falcons, who just signed Kirk Cousins. Because the reason why that he signed with Atlanta was because Minnesota told him, hey, we're going to draft a quarterback high in the first round. And so that's why he went to Atlanta, and Atlanta did the exact same thing. So, Daniel, talk to me about this move, and are there expectations for Michael Penix this year?
I'm going to say no. But I'm also ready to be wrong, because could I see if Kirk Cousins is playing terribly or not up to snuff? Could I see Michael Penix get a look? Yes, I could see that. But I don't think Kurt is one of those quarterbacks where he would get benched mid-season unless he just dove off a cliff. And I don't see that happening. I don't see it. So for me, I don't have any expectations. For me, I kind of look at it as like a Jordan Love situation. Maybe in the next 2 years he'll get a shot, but I just don't see it this year.
Yeah. I would say have a good preseason.
Yeah.
And then throughout the regular season, Kendrick Lamar, be humble, sit down. And then if what? That's a good take.
That was good. That was awesome.
It's good. Yeah, no, we loved it.
And then if Kirk Cousins gets hurt, which he has shown a propensity to do, high side of that is make Atlanta regret paying Kirk so much.
Yeah.
I think Atlanta would love to regret paying Kirk Cousins that much money. If it meant that their first-round draft pick looks outstanding. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. I think the reason why I think Atlanta took Kirk Cousins was because I don't think that they thought that they weren't going to get Michael Penix Jr. in the draft. Because what I'm hearing is that they loved Michael Penix Jr. But the expectations was that he was going to be gone by the time that they picked 8, because they did not move up. They didn't trade back. They were at 8. And so once they saw that their guy, the guy that they wanted, was there, they said, I know we just paid Kirk all this money, but he's there, so we're going to get him. Because you also don't know how Kirk Cousins is going to look once the season rolls around. Because, we've seen a lot of quarterbacks come back from torn ACLs and they look better than ever. But we've also seen a lot of quarterbacks who, are not the same. And so maybe they thought, hey, it's possible that he's not going to be ready to go by the time the season starts, or that he's not going to, or we think that Michael Penix Jr. can possibly be better than him. And I think, Savage, you're absolutely right. I think they would absolutely be happy to be wrong, because I know the San Francisco 49ers were okay with being wrong on Trey Lance. So, yeah, I think the expectations of make Atlanta not regret their decision with taking you number one with their first round pick. I think you do that because he didn't choose his situation. Like Atlanta made that decision to take him, and his job is just to do the very, very best that he can. But I do think this puts pressure on Kirk Cousins, and I think some good pressure. He needs that. He needs that.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that's going to do it for us here on Double Take, an NFL podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Let us know your thoughts on the Cowboys draft, where the expectations are for them, your thoughts on the draft, about who won, who are also the biggest losers. We didn't get a chance to talk about that. But then also, what are your expectations for quarterbacks who are coming into the league and starting for the very, very first time, or possibly sitting on the bench? But until next time, have a great weekend of watching NBA basketball. God bless.
S-Bot.